level up your slackline skills. With the tips I'm giving you here, this should happen in no time. I've rigged the slackline all around here, which is a great choice for beginners. It has adjustable tree slings, it has a stainless ratchet, and it comes in a width of 37 millimeters, which makes it more precise for foot placement. So the first challenge is to stand for 5 seconds on your strong foot. And ideally you only want to stand on one foot, because then you have the second leg to counterbalance. It's important to bend your leg and look to the front. At the beginning the line will shake. This feels a bit weird at the beginning, but like while you're shaking, you're actually making most progress. So enjoy that moment, because like it's the moment where you stabilize all your joints. So it's actually a really good thing, this shaking. Make sure that your posture is upright and balanced with all the joints. Like you can start with the wrists, use the elbows, use the shoulders, and even the upper body and also the leg. The more you move, the better you can balance. And if you almost lose balance, don't be shy to also make such motions. But in the end, you can only balance as good as your weaker leg allows. So the next challenge would be to stand for 5 seconds also on your weak leg. Next thing is balancing in a sitting position. So you don't want to like do the credit card thing, like you don't want to have the line exactly between your butt cheeks, but there is a bone on the side. So you want to sit on the bone and slide towards the middle so that the skin is under tension. And now I'm sitting on my left butt cheek, and when I'm sitting on my left butt cheek, I want to sit diagonally, like with my right foot in the front. You can also take the left foot up, but then you have the closer foot up. So either like that or like that. And if you want to be more complete as a slackliner, just learn both. It's a bit easier when the line is a bit higher up for sitting, because then you can let hang down the second foot a bit. Otherwise you're always like in this position. So now it's time to take steps. And obviously, especially kids, they just want to run over the line to get to the other side as fast as they can. But to really make progress, it's important to pass a lot of time on the slackline and not to go as far as you can, because otherwise you become unprecise with your motions. So find balance on one leg first. Try to feel the line with the second leg. And now always when you're standing on both legs, you're a bit more blocked in your hip downwards. You basically have almost no options anymore to balance. So bend the knees a bit more when you're standing on both legs. You anyway have enough strength on both legs. Shift the hip to the front so that the back foot is only on the toes, and take off the back foot. Try to feel the line, shift the hip to the front and take off the back leg. It's important to really shift the hip to the front, because like you could also shift the shoulders to the front, but then with every step you will bend forward a bit more, which is obviously not your goal. So with the crossing, you start on one side of the line, you walk until you fall, and then instead of starting at the beginning again, you stand up again where you fell. Try to keep walking as far as you get. And the really great thing about the crossing is that you really learn every part of the slackline. Not only the first meter, but you also learn to deal with oscillations in the middle of the slackline. And now comes an exercise that is really important for later on, for the sake of safety. It's like sliding off like that. So you put the foot on the line, you tilt the line, and you slide off to the side. It's actually super easy, but it's really important when like walking on higher lines that you have this reflex, because otherwise, like if your foot stays on the line, it might kind of hurt your knee, or like if you're on a very loose line, you might fall head forward to the ground. So it's very important to learn sliding off. You can even just like put one foot on the line and try it this way. it's important to do it to both sides. Obviously you want to fall to that side when you're standing on one leg, where you're beside the line and not having the line in the middle of your legs in the end. Now let's come to the next challenge, which is walking backwards. And it's the same motion as walking to the front. It's like feeling the line with your toes, shifting the weight backwards and taking off your front foot. Feel the line, shift your weight backward and take away the front foot. And always take a little break while standing on one leg before going on. So now let's have a look at the diagonal stand. Diagonal means like you have the right hand and the left foot on the line or vice versa. Obviously it's good to learn both sides, and it's an amazing full body workout exercise. You really feel the core working here. And let's get back to that shaking that you've had at the beginning on the feet. I told you it's stabilizing your joints, and now also the arms come into play. So doing a diagonal stand also means it stabilizes your shoulders, which is an extremely healthy exercise. And there is some studies that show that actually the risk of injuries with slackline training is decreased by around 50%. So just doing a weekly slackline training will really stabilize your joint, and you will get injured much less in other sports. But back to the diagonal stand, it's important to have an almost right angle in this knee. Stand rather on the forefoot and have the knee almost above the foot. Of course, it's going to be a bit more to the front, but you don't want to end up like in this position, but like really be like that. And the hip is not pointed upwards, that makes it much more difficult, but it's hanging down a bit. This shoulder is almost above the hand, and sometimes it happens that your face, like the other side, you even fall down from time to time. That's part of the game. That's why it's important to have a soft and nice ground. And as I said, learn both sides. Now it's time to chill. Lie on your back. And it's much easier when you look to the front, and lying on the back is actually easier on a saggy line. The tighter it is, the more you feel the edges, but also the more difficult it is to balance in this position. And you want to place one foot on the line, it also works without, but it's a bit easier for your stability to have one foot on the line. I don't have the line exactly in the middle, but I have it under my muscles because it makes it a bit more comfortable instead of having the line on the spine. Jumping from the ground onto the line. You might think that like this exercise is way too difficult at the beginning, but it's actually not crazy hard. It's more of a commitment thing. And this line is pretty high up here. I recommend for beginners to have it lower down, because then like the commitment is way less instead of making a big jump like that. So before jumping onto the line, we want to have a look at the body position. It's important to push both knees to the front so that also the hip is pointed to the front. Like it easily happens that you lose this knee and you open up the hip to the side, and suddenly you're like balancing in another way, in another direction. So push both knees to the front, point your hip to the front. So you can also do this exercise without jumping onto a slackline. You can, for example, take the end of the slackline where you want to jump on. So you have that between the legs and you jump into this position. And you see both my knees are pointing to the front, and in the end I want to correct myself so that the hip is pointing to the front and I end up in this position. And then when you're ready, try on the line, and it's important to absorb the landing. If you land too hard, you're just gonna be jumping off again, but like land soft in your knees. Back. And ideally start walking out of this position. There is a second way to jump onto the slackline, which is running from the side. It's around the same difficulty. And the cool thing about this way of jumping on is you can also do it pretty statically. Like you have the front foot on the ground, you place the back foot on the line, and you take the front foot onto the line. And then you try a bit faster, like this. And once this works well, you really jump. It's important to go parallel and not run in this direction, otherwise you just push the line away, sideways. So this was basics 1 of level up your slackline skills. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you could learn a lot. And if you could learn a lot, don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to invite friends to do the exercises with you, and get ready for level 2.